What is going on, my fellow geeks?
3 movies with elves and a guy with a white beard.
Not a lot of people accept it as canon.
2022 will be the year of Star Wars.
Well, I have more than just one piece of geek news.
I have been Isaac Hunter.
Which is like high culture, but better. What is going on, my fellow geeks, and welcome back to Raving Geeks, your weekly pop culture podcast from Central Michigan Life, where we discuss all things geek culture, which is like high culture, but better. If this is your first time joining us, make sure you follow the CM Life Instagram and Twitter pages for updates on the podcast, and look for us wherever you find your podcasts, including YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on our website at www.cm-life.com. My name is Brendan Valentine, and I'd like to thank you all for joining me and my fellow co-hosts this week, who will introduce themselves in a second with our question of the week. This week's question is, what book are you currently reading, or wish you could be currently reading? Personally, I just bought Neil Gaiman's American Gods and would like to start reading that.
Such a good book.
I have, by the end of the semester, I have 3 20-page papers I need to write. So, no. How about y'all?
All right. Hi, everyone. I am Hope Goodrow. I feel like this is going to be a very Hufflepuff answer here, but I am currently reading 3 books. One, because it's part of a project for one of my classes. It's called Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds. The other one is getting turned into a movie where the Crawdad sings. And the final one is Six of Crows. So, yeah.
All right. Isaac Hunter here. Currently, I'm reading a graphic novel called Aster of Pan. This is about a girl named Aster that lives in a place called Pan. It's kind of post-apocalyptic. It's like a post-apocalyptic world. And basically the plot of it is that they make decisions by playing this dodgeball type game. Like, it's pretty much exactly dodgeball, except there's just one ball. And that's pretty much as far as I've gotten into it so far. Because I just started it. I just finished reading Rin's World, which is a 40K novel about the Crimson Fists and how the world got decimated by space orcs. That was pretty
yes.
good too.
Great historical fiction.
Of course. Future history. Just kidding, I hope not.
Yeah, that'd be weird.
I mean, authors might predict stuff. You don't know.
Just like dreams predict reality, man. Authors got that sixth sense.
Exactly.
But
Dr.
alrighty,
well, he was talking about.
Yeah, there really only are about 2 fish left. 1 fish, 2 fish, red fish, blue fish, my guy. But anyway, thank you both. And per usual, we like to get things started here with some quick geek news. So, what have y'all got for us?
All right, I'll start. This isn't the most new thing. It actually was published, I think, last week. But Witcher 4, the video game, is in the works, which is pretty exciting for those that have played Witcher 3. It is one of the greatest RPGs of all time.
What about people that own Witcher 3 but bought it like recently and haven't started it yet because they have 3 20-page papers due by the end of the semester?
I don't think that changes how good of an RPG it is.
I mean, like, what's this news about Witcher 4 mean for me, who wants to play Witcher 3?
Well, you have plenty of time because we don't know when it's coming out yet. All I know is it's working on it, and it takes place after Witcher 3. I'm pretty sure I read somewhere that Geralt of Rivia isn't even the main character. Like, it might be that far in the future, which I'm sure will have strange. I don't know. I don't know how much people will love that.
Yeah, but they built a universe around The Witcher, so I feel like it's not too far-fetched.
Yeah. And I also saw some stuff about possibly it being about Ciri. Also, they released an image of one of the Witcher medallions in the snow. Witcher medallions, every Witcher is part of a school. Many are extinct by now, but Geralt is part of the wolf, and he's got a wolf medallion, and it just kind of like shows he's a Witcher. But the one is believed to be a lynx. It is half covered in snow. It's got a cat-like face, and then you see kind of like more little metal bits coming off, going deep into the snow like a lynx. And as well, someone said, looks like a lynx, and the maker of the game just posted a GIF of Kenan Thompson nodding. So School of the Lynx, which actually isn't a thing yet. So new
Okay.
school. Kind
Nice.
of cool.
Cool. Well, I have a couple pieces of geek news. For those of you that are interested in the CW shows, specifically the CW Arrowverse shows, but all of them, they have renewed 7 of their series, of their 9 like currently airing series. All American, The Flash, Superman and Lois, Riverdale, Walker, Kung Fu, and Nancy Drew have all been renewed for new seasons. Which I see
Ooh.
this list and I'm concerned because this does not include Legends of Tomorrow or Batwoman. Um, but they haven't officially been canceled yet, and Legends needs another season because they could have ended it there, but they chose not to. And um, yeah, I'm very concerned because I just recently
Uh,
finished the most recent season of Legends, and
They also said that these are like the early renewals, that the
yeah,
CW does early ones, and usually they would have been back in like January that
mhm,
they would have renewed it. So I think CW is just behind on announcing stuff.
that makes sense. Um, yes, and I mean I don't see them canceling Batwoman either because that's been like one of the more popular shows. Like it didn't decrease in viewership as far as I know, but we'll see. But also, for those of you who are excited to see Amelia Clark in Marvel's Secret Invasion, for those of you who don't know who she is, if you've watched Game of Thrones or Solo, a Star Wars story, she's Kira from Solo, and I'm going to butcher the name. Isaac, I need help.
She's the
Amelia Clark,
Dragon
but
Queen.
yeah,
Khaleesi. Well, Khaleesi, she's that's one name. She's got many.
yeah. But anyway, people know who I'm talking about. Will be playing the villain. This is a new name for me. I actually didn't know this one, but Varank, um,
Playing who?
who the scroll, the female scroll, who took the form of Spider Woman in the Secret Invasion comics,
Okay.
and is likely going to be not only appearing in Secret Invasion, but also appearing in the Captain Marvel sequel. So this could
Oh.
be a new recurring villain along the lines of Loki.
Do you think she'll? Oh no, they probably can't do a super scroll yet because until they introduce the Fantastic Four.
Yes, I mean Fantastic Four will be coming out around the same time as the Marvels, like after, but like not so far after that it'd be ridiculous
Yeah.
to like introduce Super Scroll as like a cameo. Um,
Because Super Scroll, fantastic character.
but as far as we know, Scrolls are still good guys.
Mhm.
So I don't know where this is going. So I'll be very interested to see. More Marvel news. It looks like we might be getting a Nova project in the MCU with the writer for Moon Knight, Sabir Perzada, stating that he is on track to be writing I don't know if it's a series or a movie, but for Nova, Richard Rider, who, if I was going to be cast in the MCU, which if you're listening, keep it in mind, I would want to play Nova. Um, so and speaking of Moon Knight, the critics have come back and given it pretty stellar reviews. But while some critics have also said like this is going to divide fans because it's something very different, um, but I'm looking forward to it. So hopefully it is. I mean, I don't really see how they can butcher Moon Knight. I think they're fitting the vibe correctly based on what I've seen in the trailers. Playing day and night while Moon Knight jumps across rooftops definitely fits the right vibe. So that's all
Alright.
for me.
Well, speaking of shows in production, we have news on the Percy Jackson series front. Uh,
Woo!
so I think it was Rick Riordan's wife Becky that shared it, but the production start date is June 1st, 2022, with a production end date of January 25th, 2023. And they will be filming in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, as where most things are filmed right now. And that was updated as of the 19th of March. So I'm super excited. They still haven't announced any casting updates yet, but I think they've been going through and just trying to do like the combo casting calls of like trying to make sure that people fit together. I can never remember what that's called, so I apologize right now. And I know my dad just told me the other day, and I can't remember now. But also in pre-production is the Supernatural prequel series, The Winchesters, about Mary and John Winchester when they were younger. And yes, in the Supernatural show, there was a young Mary and a young John Winchester, but I think the prequel is going for a lot younger. So they have cast Drake Roger and Meg Donnelly as John Winchester and Mary Winchester, respectively. Drake Roger hasn't been in a ton of things, but Meg Donnelly was in American Housewife and the zombie movies on Disney Channel. And so I'm super excited. Drake Roger reminds me of one of the characters that they cast to play young Dean at one point. So I'm super excited. Fast and Furious 10 news. There is another DC the cinematic universe actress coming to the Fast and Furious franchise. Daniela Melchior is going to be in the 10th movie. She does not have a role yet, but she played Ratcatcher 2 in The Suicide Squad.
Love her.
So I'm super excited to see her in another film. But also, as far as the Fast and Furious franchise goes, there are plans to shoot the 10th and 11th installments with the original Vin Diesel-led cast. And then after that, they are stepping aside and ushering in a new cast, which hasn't been announced yet because obviously we don't have 10 and 11 yet. So that's going to be really interesting.
I'm down for a soft reboot of Fast and Furious.
Me too. Like, I'd be good to see the kids, starting up with how they're doing it in today's world of how so much technology and everything.
I'd love for them to return to like the Fast and Furious, Too Fast, Too Furious roots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be amazing. But there are also a good chance things will continue with other spin-offs like Hobbs and Shaw in the future. But so the article goes on to say the original group looks like they are going to move off into the fast driving retirement home. So I really liked that. But yeah, so I'm super excited for the next Fast and Furious movies to come out. Because honestly, I love them a lot. So I said earlier that I was reading the book that is being turned into a movie where the Crawdads sings. Where the Crawdads sing. Flip the plural S there. We actually just got the trailer dropped for the new movie that's coming out in this year, starring Daisy Edgar Jones, Harris Dickinson, and obviously a lot more characters. But the trailer looked absolutely amazing. The movie comes out in July. And so I'm super excited to see it. I haven't finished the book yet, but it's so good. Speaking of Supernatural and also going with DC, Misha Collins has booked his first role post Supernatural. And his first TV role is going to be Harvey Dent on Gotham Knights.
Ooh.
Just a TV show that's coming. This is the first time I'm hearing of Gotham Knights at all.
That's a video game that's coming out.
I think it sounds like that maybe he's voicing the Harvey Dent in it.
Maybe. Let me look it up.
Because the way that they were saying it is that it was a TV show, unless they were saying post Supernatural TV role, but like his TV role in Supernatural. But either way, I'm excited to hear.
No, the CW is making a show called Gotham Knights.
There we go.
Wow.
Interesting. I didn't know this.
Yeah. So I'm super excited because Misha Collins, if you watch Supernatural, obviously he was Kaz. And then he also played Lucifer at times. But you mostly saw him in the good person role, and so to see him as Harvey Dent and Two-Face, like, it's gonna be weird But I'm also, again, really excited for this because he's an amazing actor. Moving into MCU news, the Scarlet Witch solo project starring Elizabeth Olsen is set to start filming in September 2023. Now, this is not WandaVision season 2. They have come out and said that they are not planning a season 2 for WandaVision, that they're not casting it out completely, but that it's something that they're not planning for right now because she is going to be in so many future movies for the next phase. Yeah, Elizabeth Olsen getting her own movie, and Scarlet Witch, like, I am concerned, but also intrigued, especially with how they're doing Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness right now, and like portraying Scarlet Witch. So it's gonna be really interesting. But finally, there is a new movie that is starring Hilary Swank and Alan Richardson, who recently was in Reacher. You might also know him from Titans. He played Hawk. If you watched Smallville, he was Arthur Curry, Aquaman. But so they're starring in a film called Ordinary Angels, which Lionsgate will distribute, and it's set against the backdrop of the worst snowstorm in Kentucky history. It is inspired by the incredible true story of a struggling hairdresser, which is played by Hilary Swank, who single-handedly rallies an entire community to help a widowed father, Alan Richardson's character, save the life of his critically ill young daughter. So that one sounds like it's going to make me cry, but also like sounds like a really good feel-good movie that's going to be coming out. So that's all I've got.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, for those of you who don't know, it is March, and March is reading month. So it is time for the annual Geeks episode about books. So we have a couple of book-related questions lined up, but we're going to take it over to our resident book expert, Hope Gooderl, to start us off. So Hope, what questions are we asking today?
All right. So the first one that I have set out, I actually saw on TikTok, and it was bookstore employees getting asked this question, and they had to go run around the store to find the actual physical copy of the book. But so what book, and this can be an entire series as well, do you wish you could read again and experience for the first time?
Ooh, wait, does it have to, you said, does it have to be one book or can it be a series? You said
It can be a series, because like my answer is a series. So, which is not Harry Potter, for the record. Anyone going, it's going to be Harry Potter. It's not Harry Potter.
Oh, okay. I have so many.
This is the problem with book nerds. Is like,
Yeah.
This was easy. This was easy.
This was easy for you?
Yeah.
Wow.
My favorite book of all time. And the Mountains Echo by Khaled Hosseini.
Does it have to do with your background?
Nope. Narnia is my background.
Okay. If I could reread a book series for the first time again, I think I would probably just want to do Percy Jackson and then the Heroes of Olympus, like the follow-up thing. Just because I like read those books as they came out. I remember like going with my dad to buy the new ones every time from elementary school. And then I like read it consequently many, many times. But you know, I just always really enjoyed them. I'd give it another read.
Mine is the Maximum Ride series by James Patterson. And so my follow-up question, which might be a little bit harder, but also might not be, is why specifically this book or series?
Oh, again, very easy. So I mean, I did have a little bit of a tough time because there's 3 books by Khaled Hosseini that I've read: The Kite Runner, A Thousand Splendid Suns, and The Mountains Echoed, all of which are fantastic. And if you haven't read them, I highly recommend. It was a very close tie between Kite Runner and The Mountains Echoed. Like, it's not that Thousand Splendid Suns wasn't as good. It's just there's a lot that happens in that book that's very, very hard to take and deal with because it's very dark. It talks about like basically the experience of being a woman in Afghanistan throughout the like era prior to the Mujahideen overthrowing the Soviets, and then throughout the reign of the Taliban. So like very difficult to digest, especially as someone who hasn't had to deal with the negative effects of sexism and physical abuse. Um, but in reading it a second time, it's a lot easier to really understand the impact of those. So I don't need to reread it again for the first time. And Kite Runner, I'd like to reread for the first time, but I think it's only because I read it in high school. So that's why I didn't really get that full experience that I wanted. But the experience I got from reading And the Mountains Echoed for the first time, that is like the most I've like felt emotions while reading a book since I was a little kid. And I read this book for the first time 2 years ago. So it's a lot to deal with. It's a lot of little stories kind of like about the idea of like love and what love can mean at different points in your life, and how either making others sacrifice parts of their life because they love you, or sacrificing parts of your life for those you love, is like the whole narrative around the story. And it's something that I feel like is very applicable no matter what stage of life you're in. So rereading it for the first time to like bring all that out again would be very cathartic. So
Good answer. Good answer.
thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I don't go too deep with Percy Jackson. I just really liked it. I mean, I don't know if it'd be different because I'm older now. Like I was younger than Percy Jackson was when I started reading Percy Jackson. I remember being like, man, when I'm older, and then I got older, and I was like, man, if I was younger.
So according to the movies, you were what, 16?
That's funny. That's funny. What movie? No. I actually started with the second book. Fun fact: I started with Sea of Monsters because we didn't have the first one at my school library, and then I read Titan's Curse, and then I got my dad to buy the first one.
That would be so confusing.
And that's how I'd want to reread it the first time as well.
Just pull a Star
Why?
Wars
You get all
on
the
it?
spoilers for like the only one that has major spoilers at the end of it is Lightning Thief.
Yeah.
Like everyone else has spoilers, but like they're spoilers you can kind of
No,
not predict.
Yeah, I was like, well, who's this loot guy? He's a tool. And then we were in the first one. I was like, wow, there he is. I don't know. I like laughed. I remember like the first time I cried reading a book was Titan's Curse. And spoiler alert for people. That's like the first one. It's kind of like the Harry Potter thing where it's like they like the first time they have someone like die, you're like, whoa, I thought this was a kid's series. You know.
Like when I watch Clone Wars and every other episode someone's head gets chopped off and I'm like, oh, why is this for children again?
I'm like, oh, I like this clone. And then I'm like, oh.
Nope,
Oh,
don't
he
like him
fell in a
anymore.
pit of lava.
Yeah.
Gotta find a new clone.
Yeah, or it's like, oh, it's that like really short Jedi with like the scar over his eye and big ears. I always wondered what happened to him after the first one, and then I see him get like mauled by a wolf, and I'm like, oh, thanks, Clone Wars.
That arc is brutal. I love how every single thing we just mentioned comes from the same set of 3 episodes.
Yeah, it's like the first time it really. All right, Hope.
All right. So, hi, Loki. Loki is deciding to join in now. Probably
For
because
those of you only listening on audio, Loki is Hope's
my
cat,
cat.
not
Hope's pet elephant, and you're missing out.
Yeah, nor is it the Norse god of mischief played by Tom Hiddleston.
Although Loki is definitely named appropriately after the Norse god of mischief. But so the Maximum Ride series, because I was just recommending this to my aunt because she's a bus driver, and she was like, oh, I try to get books to give some of the students on the bus to read, and also for my cousin out in Arizona, she's at the age of like being able to read Maximum Ride and everything too. And but like, so the series is very relevant at one point, because like it goes over that what happens if we don't decide to save the earth, and what happens to everything with like weather and patterns, and just the earth in general with like global warming and everything, but also pre-reading the part where Max talks about Bill Nye the Science Guy, and just going like, wait, this is still part of the book. But like, it's also a really nice found family story for like people who, you know, they could have a good family at home but don't feel like they belong there. Like this series is very definitely like finding out who your family is, and you know, you've picked your family and you're taking care of each other and looking out for one another, like, but also realizing that because you are mutants who have wings and eventually discover that they have other powers as well, that they realize that they're the ones who kind of have to save humanity, and even though humanity is the one that has cast them out, and also to be able to just read the books in order without having to wait for a new book to come out and then forget some of what's happened or forget if I've read it or not, because there are like, it's kind of like the Percy Jackson series where you have the original 5 books and then the Gods of Olympus one, where like the beginning you have them like all together and everything, but then the second half starts off with them diving deeper into individual stories. So like you get Max, Angel, Fang, there's Nevermore, and I know I'm forgetting one. But then there's also a spin-off series called Hawk that I haven't started reading yet, but I have it. So it would just be really nice to be able to have a continuous storyline versus having everything broken up, because everything needs to come out. So yeah.
Nice. I'll have to look into that one. I haven't heard of that.
Yeah,
It's really
sounds
good.
pretty cool.
So I know I told you guys 2 questions at the beginning, but there is one that I wanted to ask you, just because like Brendan, your book that you talked about is very definitely heavy hitting on topics, and like even Maximum Ride is heavy hitting. Percy Jackson hits on some things, but is definitely on the lighter side. In my background, if anybody is watching online, is not all of them because it's very difficult to have all of them, but the most commonly banned books. So yes, A Wrinkle in Time is banned. Bridge to Terabithia. Kite Runner is also on here. To Kill a Mockingbird, Harry Potter, the first one. There's a lot. So my question for banning books, because this has been very popular topic, especially with what's going on in Tennessee. Senator Ted Cruz asking the Supreme Court nominee about like books like Anti-Racist Baby by Ibram Kendi, and you know, anytime that honestly you try to ban a book and backfires, and you know, because
The book gets more popular.
Like
Yeah.
Mouse.
yeah, like
Yeah.
Mouse. So do you think that there should ever be a reason to ban books, or is it something that books should have not necessarily trigger warnings, but just like a warning in general of like, hey, this is the theme, or like, you know, heavy hitting topics here, or not suitable for kids under this age yet, because they can't understand just yet.
I was gonna say that last bit right there. Obviously I think there are some books that are too old, like kind of like rated R movies. Like you're not gonna show a rated R movie in school, in elementary school. And so obviously I think there's books that maybe you should wait till middle school or high school to be allowed to read. Which I mean, it's the same thing, like I said, with movies. Like I went to school with some kids that like they weren't allowed to watch movies for a long time, certain movies. I don't know. I mean, some books, I don't know, because I don't want to say I want to ban any books. But there are some books that are just kind of like I mean, everything I think could be read, even if it's like an awful book written by like a cult leader, like you could still
Mein
analyze
Kampf.
it. Yeah, you could still analyze it as an educational like resource to like for like psychology or something to like understand someone's mind. No, so I don't think you should ban books. I mean, I get that if you're like going to like a private Christian college and they're like, you shouldn't read these books while you're in school. I mean, a-hole move, but I don't know,
Yeah.
I understand why like a religious organization wouldn't want certain books to be read.
Yeah, I kind of get that too. I think from like a governmental perspective, I don't think there's a reason to ban books, because that just seems very like dictatorship. Um, but I think if there's certain things that like the public as a like the general not like nonpartisan public would agree is like probably not suitable, they'd probably stop it at the publishing stage. Like if there's no audience for it, or if there's the only audience for it is a audience that would take it and use it as a dangerous tool, I think it'd stop at the publishing stage, and I think that's what the publishers are there for.
Yeah.
Well,
And
'cause,
also
like,
with the internet, you can just post whatever you want on the internet. So like if
right.
there's a reason there's a publishing house and this whole thing to get through, like there to like stop things that would be like objectively bad. But
Yeah.
otherwise I don't think there's any reason to ban books.
Yeah. I mean, like, so there's one book. Okay. So I try to like frame this the right way too. Like, I don't think that you should ever ban books because, and this is part being a teacher, but also part of me that has worked with like activism stuff and anti-racist groups and trying to end racism. Books can be used to start the conversation. So you talk about like On My Background by Sherman Alexie, the absolutely true diary of a part-time Indian.
Yeah.
That is
Got that
a
book.
really good book to start the conversation, especially here in America, where we had the boarding schools that basically said, no, you're not Native American, you're white, and we're going to make sure that your kids don't learn their culture. And it caused a lot of harm that is still being inflicted on the kids today who live on reservations. And some of our reservations also still technically don't have electricity. It's only in a couple buildings. And so it's used as a conversation. I think books should have some warning labels on them, but I also, because like I've seen the TikToks or just social media posts of like, don't judge a book by its cover, or like blind date ideas where they wrap it in brown paper and then just write a few things on the outside so you can't actually like see who it's by, or like judge a book by its actual cover, like how pretty the cover is.
Chapter 1, The Boy Who Lived.
Yeah.
Wonder what this is. Sorry.
Or in the seventh book, Ginny kisses Albus.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
the chapter
yeah.
title.
It's like, wow, what a plot twist.
Right.
Oh!
Dumbledore comes back to life and hooks up with Ginny. Wow.
Age
Stole
is just
everything
a
from
number,
Harry.
man. Triple digits.
But I do think banning books, I mean, we could see it throughout history whenever books are banned. I mean, think of the Nazis banning books. Like, it was very
Banning
much,
and burning.
yeah, and like governmental control, parental control of like, you don't want your kids to grow up, but also they need a better introduction to the real world than just being thrust into the real world with no like prior knowledge of how to deal with stuff. And so I don't think books should ever be banned, but I definitely think that, like what you were saying, Isaac, like with movies, like they need the ratings of like, hey, you should do this. And we do have a system for it, but it's terrible because like all it does is just take random words in the book and decide how difficult they are to read, and then that's what says if a book is supposed to be for older ages. So like To Kill a Mockingbird is technically said that third graders can read To Kill a Mockingbird.
I would not give To Kill a Mockingbird to third graders.
Meanwhile, third grade, they threw like obviously Bruce Terabithia, I remember reading that in third grade. Broke my heart. They really wanted us that where the red fern grows. Any book that's about that has dogs in it, like and it's old book, like Old Yeller, like you know that you're gonna deal with heartbreak.
Yeah.
And some books have two dogs, which you just,
Yep.
yeah.
I read Where the Red Fern Grows in 6th grade, I think.
Yep.
But yeah, To Kill a Mockingbird, how it's rated is because the language is easy to read. A 3rd grader could read it. Yes, a 3rd grader could read it, but they wouldn't actually understand the book and know what's going on. So
And also,
we
there's some pretty traumatic things that happen in that book.
Yeah.
So yeah, we definitely need a rating system of like better than just genre forming, because young
Well,
adult books.
like continents, genres are arbitrary.
Yes, exactly.
Like
So now
consonants.
No, I'm pretty sure consonants are like
only vowels from now on.
ah, e, ah,
Does-
oh, ooh.
I was gonna say, does Y count as a vowel at this point?
Depends on the sound it makes. If it makes a y, it's not. If it's a like e, then it's a vowel.
All right. So going on from our heavy topic there, I wanted to finish out the podcast with what book.
Oh
or
wait,
genre-
before you finish,
Oh,
I had a question
okay.
I wanted to ask too. So I don't know if you want to
Yes.
save this one for the end.
I'll save it for the end. We're good.
Okay, I have one. All right. Do either of you have any books that you would like to write, but because
Yes.
you are not an author, it is taking a while or
Yeah.
is probably not going to happen?
Yes. Besides the fact that I play a lot of D&D, and that's just writing stories, but with your friends. I remember like one time there's like a post that's like, I really just want to play like D&D by myself. And then like he re-comments and he's like, actually, I just realized that's called writing a book. But besides that, like I do have like documents just full of like towns and people names and genealogies and like all this fantasy stuff. But that's all just in case I want to play a campaign that uses those things. But I do have ideas for books that I would really like to like write and explore. I don't know how, do you want me to just answer this question yes or no, or do you want me to get into it, Brendan?
You can get into it. Go for it. I thought that'd
Okay.
be fun because I have a couple like in my head and I gotta.
There's okay. I'm a big fantasy nerd. And I like since like high school, since I think it was probably like 9th grade, freshman year, which is a long time for me. That would have been 2011. It's creepy. Ooh.
Yeah.
Don't wanna think about
2011.
that. Hope gets it.
Yes.
I remember I think it was actually it stemmed off of Percy Jackson originally, mixed with a few other titles, but it was the idea that like in Percy Jackson there's half-bloods that are the children of like a god, and I was like, but what if that half-blood gets with a different god and their kid is like half one god and a quarter another god, and then I was like, what if that half-blood gets with, and so I had that I originally had this idea for this unlikable snake evil deity guy, and then he has like a son who's like a demigod, but like the entire book you wouldn't know he's the demigod. Spoiler alert. But this story's been in my head for so long, but I don't even have a title. It's just called Son of the Snake God Story. That's like anytime I add a character, it just goes to a file that's like Son of the Snake God, and that's like the smallest part of it because it's like this fantasy world. I don't want to say Tolkien inspired because there's no elves or dwarves. Kind of dark like The Witcher. But The Witcher also still has elves and dwarves. This is like all humans, very medieval. And like I just keep adding stuff to it. Like I keep drawing pictures and adding to it. I'm like, I'm never gonna do anything with this massive knowledge. I've created like an entire like pantheon of deities. I know like what they all look, and then they like appearance changes for different civilizations because they see them as different entities. Yeah. So yes, Brendan, to answer your question, it's all in here.
It's all in here.
I was gonna say, for my answer to the question, would you like to see my Google Drive folder that is probably taking up the majority of my space on Google Drive, or the numerous number of notebooks that are filled, or the 3 accounts that I have on one website so that I don't have to pay premium to be able to like do more
Do more.
storyboarding things. I've actually been writing one since high school, but I haven't done anything with it in a few years. But I was thinking about this the other day that like I actually started my writing career as a fan fiction writer, like even in elementary school, because like in my elementary school in 1st or 2nd grade, we had to write stories, and then there was like a 5-page story, 1 line per page, and then you drew the picture that went with it. And even though I'd only seen like 2 episodes of Pokemon from Saturday morning cartoons access to it, I wrote a story about how was the kid's name?
Ash?
Ash Ketchum?
Yeah, Ash and Pikachu fought off the 2 bad guys, and
Jesse
yeah,
and James.
yeah.
Are they the bad guys?
No, seeing as they get the Team Rocket evil saying wrong every time and make it fun and cheery, no.
But then I also wrote another one that was like a mix between Narnia and Peter Pan,
Oh, heck, okay.
because the main character was married to Peter Pevensey. She was Queen Lily, and with King Peter,
Wow.
and they had to fight Captain Hook.
Honestly, I could see it based on the Narnia world.
Yeah, like,
I'd be all for that. Are you kidding me?
That sounds like an episode of Once Upon a Time.
Honestly.
Yes, it does. Oh,
so
man.
what you're saying is Once Upon a Time should have paid me to write their
I mean-
episodes, and
Yes, Once Upon a Time is just a giant fan fiction.
Dude, I saw a post the other day. I forget what movie they said it like it was, but like blank is bad, seems like bad fan fiction, but Spider-Man No Way Home seems like good fan fiction. I forget, it was something that came out recently.
I was gonna say 50 Shades of Grey was technically a fan fiction of Twilight.
That doesn't
Yeah, I
surprise
heard
me.
about that.
And it got
a
really
Wattpad
sad.
fan fiction of Twilight.
And the after movies are based off of fan fiction that's dark Harry Styles fan fiction, where it's like bad boy
Ooh.
Harry Styles, Hardin Scott, Harry Styles. And I did read that fan fiction on Wattpad, because I follow the author as well, and I was like, are you serious? You got your fan fiction published? But yeah, I have another story that's currently up on my computer right now that I started writing because I have a lot of Pinterest boards that are like writing prompts challenge accepted, writing prompts dialogue, writing prompts pictures. And so I'm using 2 pictures right now to write a short story.
Yeah.
But the one that I have been writing since high school, I have a sequel thought of. And like I know how one character, he like dies, but like he doesn't actually die, but like there's this whole big thing. So yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
So,
I definitely like, I use pictures to tell my stories all the time. I think it's just because I think I'm a better artist than I am a writer, and that's not saying that I'm a really good artist. That's just saying
I suck at drawing, so I use pictures I find on the internet.
And I guess I was thinking novel, but like I wanted to make a comic book for so long, and I have so many superheroes. If we had time, I'd
That
share
was the other
like
one.
I'd share a file, and like I just have I do a lot of drawing, but like I have like a paint file that has a bunch of superheroes that I've drawn like 8-bit on
Nice.
paint.
Yo, for a future episode, we should pick one and like fully pitch it, and that's the whole episode. Each of us gets one pitch.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Like whatever kind of project you want before we all graduate.
I have a different
I still have a
superhero
year,
stories.
so year and a half left.
Some of my superhero stories are cringy because they're like clearly just based on my friends and I.
Hey, that's how the best stories are made.
It's not as bad as after Shark Boy and Lava Girl came out. I made a whole bunch of characters that were just like, random animal boy or girl.
Hey,
and
that's not bad at all. I love that.
Where do you
As
think
long
we
as they're
got
better than Dream
Spider-Man?
Boy. Spider-Man's just a copy of Shark Boy.
Exactly. Even though Shark Boy and Lava Girl came out decades after Spider-Man. Time travel.
All right, Brenda.
Yeah. So there was one that I thought of in like middle school. That's like, um, the plot. Like there's like a prologue, but basically, this family buys like a house up. Originally, I had it set in Michigan until I found out Minnesota has more lakes.
Yeah,
Um,
Land of 1,000 Lakes or whatever.
yeah. So now it's in Minnesota. But they buy like a cabin and they have four kids, and then the youngest girl goes missing. So then they don't go back for like a decade. But then like the book is like when they come back and the oldest sibling's like, I'm gonna figure this out because they never figured out what happened. And like long story short, it turns out at the end of the book that there wasn't a person that like kidnapped her. It was the lake itself because it's sentient.
Okay, I
Um,
would read that.
yeah,
Gosh.
no, and
Yeah.
I had a whole trilogy figured out. Like the whole like thing behind the lake being sentient is that like in order for like life to happen, it was like the precursor to life and
Like a
gained consciousness, and then like
primordial entity. Oh,
yeah, like like the primordial soup, and it's like chemically identical to water, but like there's some way to differentiate it. We just hadn't figured it out yet,
synapses.
and like it started trying to like take back land from humans after like pollution and everything, but like as like more life starts to like evolve, there's less of it on the planet, and it's this weird struggle. So I enjoyed that.
I
I
would
got like
love to read
10
that.
chapters in and haven't touched it since.
I bet if you
Uh,
went back now and looked at all your writing, you'd be like,
I'd be like,
"Ugh."
but then there's one I thought of last summer, that I want to like toy with. It's called I had a really good title. It's called Possessive, and it's about how this guy dies, but then like is stuck around and like follows his family and
Ooh,
his former fiance around and like sees how they like cope with his loss and move on. But then like when his ex fiance starts dating again, she gets into like bad relationships. So he thinks at the beginning of being a ghost that there's not much he can do. He can't interact with the physical world, but like he can't walk through walls. Like he walks on because he can walk on the floor. He can't float or
Interesting.
anything, but he can't like interact. Like he
like the
can't open a
Sixth
door.
Sense.
Yeah, like he can't open a door. So like there's a whole scene where like he gets locked in the apartment and all the doors and windows are closed. And that I've thought of, and he's just kind of stuck for a little while. There's one he gets hit by a car and goes flying, but like doesn't get injured, and the car just keeps going because he's a ghost. Um, but then like the whole point at the end is about like learning to like move on and things like that. But as his like powers start to grow, he can like possess people, and like his
Yeah.
mental health starts to decline, and he starts to possess people for like selfish means, and that's why it's called possessive. But
Nice.
but then the one I thought of most recently, I thought it'd be a fun story like 1984 or Brave New World esque, where it's like not too far in the future, but like drastically different world in which like I mean it's not too far off where what we have now, but like healthcare and like really basic healthcare is only accessible to the really rich, and they've come up with these like ridiculous treatments for things. Like the opening scene is two guys that have been shrunk down to like minuscule size. So instead of using like SSRIs, they use people shrunk down to a small size to physically push away all of the
Oh,
chemicals that they don't want, like and things like that. And you like take shifts.
creating
Um,
jobs.
yeah. We were talking in my neurodegenerative disease class the other day about how people with Parkinson's disease, it's typically easier for them to like if they like have like addictions for them to quit,
Mhm.
because they don't have as many dopaminergic neurons. And I'm like, yo, that's something to like add into that like story is like in the future, in order to help with addiction, we just induce Parkinson's disease and then cure it. I'm like, that's horrific, but also really good social commentary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are the major ones I thought of and would actually probably actually write if I decided to be an author.
Those all sound
Listen,
really cool.
Thanks.
my latest one is not the short story, but like actual novel length. I just remembered it, why it took me, because I've been doing this for a year at least, is a mafia story.
Ooh,
Ooh.
but like you don't necessarily realize that like the family is mafia. You just think that they're super rich because they basically started this town in Michigan that's kind of like a little Italy.
Ugh.
And yeah, there is a son that got kicked out of the family for essentially being very psychopathic. He comes back and is like, listen, no, Dad, here's the revenge. And yeah, and a random girl gets it caught in the middle because she starts dating one of the sons. But it's a set for college because I was like, I want a story that's for like college age people.
Mm-hmm.
Because you
Yes,
can't
not enough.
find that.
I have a quick follow-up to this one. Just like
Yes.
it can be yes or no if you want. But would you ever write something nonfiction?
Yes.
And yes.
As a history major, yes. Most of my papers are nonfiction. I'm sure all of our papers are nonfiction.
Isaac's gonna find a dinosaur skeleton that's never been found before.
Ooh.
And he's gonna write an entire like National Geographic magazine about it.
I don't have any friends.
No, he's not going to write it in a magazine. He's going to write it on the dinosaur, so people have to come see it and read the dinosaur.
And I'll be like, that was always there. I have friends that I don't have any friends that are paleontologists, but I have friends that are archaeologists, and they would probably get really upset if I
used Sharpie on a dinosaur bone.
If I did that too. I don't know actually if I'd write a nonfiction story. It depends, I guess, what I get. I mean, there's a chance I might, like, especially since I'm going in the museum field. Many people in the museum field end up writing stories, especially about items. That'd be actually kind of cool if I just like wrote like a little snippet. Usually starts with journals, but yeah.
See, I would want to write a story that analyzes the philosophical conflict of the Assassin's Creed games and then solve the philosophical conflict.
And it's nonfiction, but it would also be really compelling because there's so much.
Yes, it's like I have to. But the best part is I have to play through the games multiple times in order to really get it.
And that's a sacrifice you're willing to make.
I've already started.
And here I am going, let's see, if I ever wrote nonfiction, it'd probably be photojournalism related, where I'm going around and essentially writing a blog, but like, taking the pictures and then writing nonfiction stuff. But very simple compared to yours of like, let's analyze.
Oh, it's not even like I literally the other day was playing Assassin's Creed and was like, I can write a book if I like really put in like some thought and took some, really started to read some philosophy. So
I mean, I guess like opinion-based things are nonfiction, so I'd probably be able to write something like that.
I mean, I technically already have nonfiction published. It's just a chapter in a book, but
little by little.
Little by little. So, all right, Hope. What's our last question for the day?
Final question of the day. What book or genre or trope is your secret favorite? Your favorite that you are only going to say here on this podcast right now. And if anybody asks you about it after, you're just going to be like, I don't know what you're talking about. What is it?
This is a tough one because normally I own up to the stuff I like.
I'm looking at my books behind me.
I'll go first because like I have a couple. So my favorite trope is enemies to lovers, and I especially love it when the like, because you get that like defensive part in some of them, that like the guy gets defensive of the girl and then the girl's like, wait, but you hate me. But I specifically love when the girl gets defensive of the guy and like turns the whole tide on gender norms and like gender roles.
Yeah.
Because it's like, listen, a girl can be really defensive about a guy if she really wants to be. But my other favorite is, honestly, it's not all, because some get really cliche and I just can't read it because it's too lit. But some romance novels are like very nice, and I just read them to feel good about myself, and I'm like, oh yes, I am this character that has this boyfriend now. But yeah, enemies to lovers.
I can tell you the ones that I absolutely despise and will never keep it a secret if you'd like.
Enemies to
Because
lovers.
yes, I'm not kidding. Like, so no. My partner is reading a book series to me, and the thing that I hate is like in like the first book of a series, they paint a character out to be a really bad person, and you really hate them, and they seem slimy, and you don't like them at all. And then in the second book, you learn more about them, and you're like, oh, I'm supposed to like them. No, you made me hate them in the beginning. I will always hate them, especially if it's like the like kind of like douchey dude that
Yeah.
turns out like he's
That's
got a
fair.
soft side. I'm like, no, he's always going to be the worst. And the worst part is Natalie keeps reading this book, and I kind of like the guy
You
now.
called her.
Yeah, no, I'm done. I'm gonna ask Mike to bleep it out because we keep reading the book, and I kind of like the guy now, and I don't
What
like that I'm starting to like him.
what book is it?
The book series is A Court of Thorns and Roses.
Oh,
The character's name is
yeah.
Recent. I swear to God, if I end up liking Recent, I told Natalie if Feyre and Recent end up together, I'm not reading it anymore. And
Hey,
so no one
Brendan.
spoil it for me. No one spoil it for me. I don't need to know if that happens or not. But I don't like Recent, but I'm starting to like him, and I don't like it. So maybe this is the secret one. I kind of like the trope because it works, but I hate it because I don't want to like him.
I get that.
Hey,
For
well,
instance, like-
first off, Brendan, when you finally re-download TikTok after writing your 320-page papers,
Oh no, I
find
still
Book
have it.
Talk. Okay, find Book Talk, and then interact with a bunch of Book Talk. Because you'll probably join a bunch of people because
No,
they love that series.
no, I've been told by the person I'm reading this book with, so I don't have to give Mike more work, that I'm not allowed to go on Book Talk until we finish the series.
I get that. I'm watching the show Killing Eve right now, which is really good, and it's like about an assassin and then about this lady that's like trying to hunt down the assassin. But the assassin, her name's Villanelle, really on the nose. She's like killing all these people, and like they're trying to make you like her, but like I have to keep reminding myself, I'm like, homegirl has killed innocent people, and I'm like, and I don't want to like her, but she's very like fun. She's charismatic and she's fun, and she's a lot less intimidating as the show, like the commercial show. She's just kind of like a happy-go-lucky assassin.
No, dude, I love villains like that. Like I love villains that are like cool people. They're like I shouldn't like them
I
because
know,
they're
and I'm like,
murderers,
ugh.
but I love that. Where
Well, and
because
she's
I
killed
am
someone
a
I like too, and I was like, oh, I don't like her, and I was like, I can't.
well, it's like me now. Like when I first watched Revenge of the Sith, I was like, Anakin, no, don't murder those children. And now I'm like, yeah, Anakin,
Anakin.
get them kids.
I'm like, Anakin, no, don't stop. All right, sorry, to answer the question, Hope. A genre I really like, or trope. I don't know. I mean,
Or
obviously,
specific book.
I like you mentioned found family. I do like found family. Let's see, what have I cried with? I
Marley
don't
and
know.
Me.
I do like when people just like realize that someone's really important to them, and then they're like, I wish I'd really known earlier, but like it gets me going. Breaks my heart. Gosh, they're all so good. I just like books. I guess that's not really a trope. I really like reading Wikipedia, not Wikipedia, but like fandom wiki, whatever the
Yeah.
wiki does about like comics and about like different genres. And I will just like read page after page after page of Wikipedia articles about like certain things that happen. Usually it's just like lore. I love lore of
I also
worlds.
love lore.
I love like I'll read like a book and I'll be like, I want to know the background to this. Like I was looking up stuff. I was like, I don't know. Like I'll like read Harry Potter and I'll be like, I want to know more about the founders. Like I want to know the lore behind this. I want to know all this different stuff. So I guess I really like lore.
That's why I like the Eternals so much. It's because it gives so much lore, and I think that's why a lot of people
Yes.
don't like it because it's lore.
I love history. I'm a history major. I love history. I love finding out why things happen
Mhm.
and how they got to the point that I love ancient artifacts. It's
Uh,
just cool.
To
You
finish it out,
guys are also, I was gonna say, you guys also keep mentioning an actual title too. Every time you say lore, there's a
Hitticus
book.
lore.
No, there's a book called Lore by Alexandra Bracken, and it's a twist on Greek gods. It's actually really good so far.
Wait, is it Lore Olympus? Was that a different one?
That's a different one. It's just called Lore.
My genuine least favorite trope that I think we need to get rid of in books, just real quick, is mental illness equals villain.
Yes! Thank you!
Um,
Sorry.
It's really prevalent
like-
in comic books, but it's also prevalent in novels too.
But,
Watching
like,
the
the other
Batman
one-
made me really, really miffed about that. I like the movie, but then it's basically just Riddler has mental illness and no one's paid attention to him, and that's why he's a villain. So
the other one that I hate is when all of a sudden the person who is super introverted at the beginning of the book is no longer introverted.
Yeah, that's not something
Like-
you need to fix.
No. And I'm like, also, as an introverted person, that doesn't happen. Like, you just get comfortable around those people and you can be extroverted with them. But
Or personality types being like based, just like your personality is that like you have a mental illness, or your personality is that you have a disability.
or your entire character arc is based on whether or not you can get pregnant. I also don't like that one.
Yeah.
Um,
Sorry, Mary.
I was gonna say, or Yennefer on Witcher.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think that's everything we have for today. There's tons we can go on with books and stuff, but as always here on Raving Geeks, we like to end with some recommendations for our viewers, whether that be movies, video games, comics, or anything else geeky. So, hosts, rapid fire. You got anything for us to?
Killing Eve. I just like I said, I've been watching it. It's really good. Yeah, that'll be. I recommend that. Oh, I just started watching the Boys Diabolical like shorts too. Those are kind of fun.
I'm gonna say on YouTube there is a YouTube channel called Adventures with Purpose, with a purpose. Adventures with Purpose. It started off, the guy he and a couple of his friends were just diving into rivers, picking up junk. But now he also has like 40-minute long documentary style videos of them going out onto rivers and just bodies of water that would be deep enough to have cars, and searching for lost missing people.
Yes.
And one episode that I watched last night, I started crying because the main host, he doesn't usually cry, and he started crying, and I was like, Jared, stop. But honestly, they're really good, and I really like his commentary on just like the picking up trash ones, because he's funny sometimes too. So yeah, it's really good.
Nice. I gotta recommend. I know them from a podcast. I know they have YouTube channels and other things like that. But the podcast, My Brother and Me.
Yes, I think my sister listens to those.
Yeah, they're very fun. There's actually quite a few TikTok audios taken from their podcast. So you've probably heard their voices before. Darn it, what's their last name? Can I think of it before we run out of time on the Zoom call? It's on the tip of my tongue. My brother and me.
That's with
the McElroy brothers.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're very fun, so highly recommend. So yeah, I believe that's all we have for y'all today. Thank you for joining us here on Raving Geeks. Make sure you leave a comment wherever you're listening from. We love to hear what you thought about today's episode. Any thoughts on books? Any like plot lines you really like? Any like ideas for books you really want to pitch and things like that? Feel free to reach out to us on Facebook or Twitter, as well as TikTok at Raving Geeks. And as always, I've been Brendan Valentine alongside my fellow co-hosts.
Hope Gooderl.
And I'm Isaac Hunter. Read your books, people.
Stay geeky and have a great week, everyone. So long.